Critical Thinking, recording, take one. Critical Thinking by Brenda Lorraine Tough Grimes. Yes, that's my name. I'm proud of my maiden name still, but I'm proud of my married name as well. And that is a belief. It's also an opinion, but it is a fact, and I feel strongly about it. Feelings, yes. History. Well, I have a history. We all do. And social media. Yes, I have a social media presence. And of course, there's the mainstream media. Well, in these times, in the 21st century, with speculations of war, disease, and all kinds of other horrible things, it is sometimes easier to hide yourself under a blanket. Grab that blanket and hide under it, yeah. Well, yeah, it's easier sometimes to think about doing that instead of actually really thinking through everything. Now you'll notice the sun and the shadow is changing. That's because I live on a boat. Well, everything is a lot because there is so much information out there at the moment, and you can find it if you want to go looking. No, I do not always want to go looking, but I do want to be informed. And I'm not sure that I can believe everything coming out of our politicians at the moment, and from mainstream media and other sources too. Facebook is just the tip of the iceberg at the moment because they put so many restrictions on what can and cannot be posted. So many new forms of social media platform have started. I know that, in fact, the MP from Mackay, the federal MP George Christensen, has even chosen to join the Telegram page. You see me looking over to the right is because I have my speech written out on my computer and I haven't got those, those credits that come up on my iPhone yet. That's one of the other apps that I'll have to get as well. So let me start. When the virus was changed to coronavirus, to COVID-19, interesting thought. A lot of other viruses and fevers are named after where they started. So why then were the Chinese so keen to have the virus name changed? Speculations of conspiracy theories, yes, they're ripe, and I, for one, am still weighing out all the information. The timing of when the Wuhan virus came out was incredibly interesting. The past President Trump, was still in power. Now, I'm not an expert on the state of the world affairs at the moment, but I know that despite what others may think, I believe that Trump was really making a difference for the global economy and had encouraged necessary conversations by world leaders of countries that are very critical. Let's just stop there for a moment. Let's stop and think about the whole Taliban situation and imagine if Trump had been in power, would the situation have gone down the same? I don't think so. September 9, 2001. Do you remember that day? Do you remember where you were? Wow. That devastating day for the United States and the impact to the rest of the world, it was pretty full on. It was full on. Hard to believe that it's been that many years ago. Well, I was still living in Canada at the time, and I remember there were protocols put into place for mail that could be a bioweapon. Any envelopes that came into our office that we received in the mail or hand-delivered that appeared to have the appearance that it was a bit suspicious, or once opened and powdery substance was discovered, we had to follow strict guidelines to ensure that everyone was safeguarded from a potential deadly powder. Yeah, 2001, ladies and gentlemen. and it was a very real hazard. And we had to have strict controls in place. It was very daunting at the time. Then there was the SARS in April 2003. Yes, I'll always remember that time because had Peter and I gone ahead with our Canadian wedding, well, he wouldn't have been allowed into Canada from Australia at the time, and we wouldn't have been able to get married. Now, I sometimes wish I could go back to school so I could pay closer attention to the world politics and world history, so that I would have a better grasp of the big picture in the world today. Well, I can't. So I work with what I do know and the information that I have access to. So, yes, I understand that the pharmaceutical companies have developed an injection which is said to be a vaccine for this Wuhan virus. But I'm still not convinced that it's the way that I want to live at the moment. So here's my personal view, my personal convictions, my personal observations at the moment. Note the emphasis on the word personal. Freedom of choice. We're slowly losing that, folks, in case you hadn't noticed. So, the injection, I know some people are going to beg to differ that it isn't a new technology. Well, it certainly is a new technology compared to the technology of polio, of measles, of all of those things in the past, okay? Sure, they've been studying it for a while, but I don't think anyone has actually ever received a vaccine with this new technology, okay? So that's the difference. Yes, they've been testing it and trialing it for many years, but nobody has actually physically, in terms of a person, received a vaccine with this new technology, and certainly not to combat this Wuhan virus. So here we are. I'm not a medical expert. No, I didn't say that I was. But I have been made aware of people that have had the injection and that they have experienced near-death experiences. Yep. And all of this data, well, they can't report on it. Won't even go there, but that's true. And then there was this other case that I know of that the person had just gone through a fairly significant treatment and they were doing really, really well. And since they've received their jabs, well, things haven't gone so well for that person. So, and that's just two examples, and I know of many more. There's Pfizer, Moderna, and AstraZeneca, as far as I'm aware. And it's my understanding that AstraZeneca has been deemed not safe in other countries. Canada, for example, and in Europe. But here in Australia, at the time that I actually wrote this, because it's been some time since I've actually recorded it, but it wasn't that long ago, it was just a couple weeks ago or so that I did write this initially down. So AstraZeneca has been deemed safe here in Australia. Yes, we've got a surplus supply. So people are being encouraged to receive it. Interesting thing for me, blood clots were common in my family. My papa died from a blood clot, and my dad was prone to them. So I would certainly not even give this one a consideration if I was signing up for the injection. Interesting to note that our Prime Minister apparently has received an enormous supply of the Pfizer. Apparently he negotiated some sort of deal with one of the other countries. Because you see, in case you're not hearing, the other thing that I've discovered most recently is they're having to develop more and more of these vaccines because the news is it's not just 2 doses. You're going to have to get booster dosages. And those are going to be, say, every 5 or 6 months. Somebody's making a lot of money. But the government, I know, they're offering the vaccine free. Yeah. and they're putting fear in us if we don't take it. And we are going to suffer consequences. Gee, what a wonderful nation. And it's not just Australia, it's my home country, Canada, as well. And parts of the United States and Europe countries. And, you know, crazy, crazy, crazy. But people don't think that there is a conspiracy going on. They think that we can trust the governments. So I do not doubt the seriousness of the Wuhan virus, but I am a bit suspicious as to its creation and why the government has not encouraged the other treatments that have been shown to work. At a fraction of the cost. Wow. Go figure. Won't even go down all the various things that you can come up with, but there are lots of different options that are out there. By isolating people and putting us into lockdown and house arrest, and the fear-mongering that continues, our immune systems have actually been put at risk. Here in Australia, we have the numbers where people can call that they're stressed out, you know, that they're considering suicide, that they're really depressed. Those numbers are reaching the roof. They've never experienced the number of calls that they're getting. Let's look at the number of suicides, the number of businesses that have closed. My personal view, we need each other. My personal view is that we need each other. And I'm amazed at just how quickly people are just doing what they've been asked to do by the government without really considering all of the options. As I mentioned, there's other treatments out there. And look at the statistics of how many people actually get infected. People are so afraid that when they actually have a symptom, they're running like crazy to get the test, but then they're afraid to actually go to the hospital because, you know, I could actually have the virus and, oh my gosh, it's going to mean doom and gloom. But again, if we treat this thing early enough, it isn't going to mean doom and gloom. It meant maybe doom and gloom in the beginning because they didn't know what they were dealing with, but did they? See, that's where the conspiracy comes in. So, and the statement that I made before about people just doing what they've been asked to do by the government, I make this statement based on my firsthand experience of discussions with others and interaction with others on social media. I look around when I'm out shopping for essentials like groceries, either when we've been in lockdown or not, which we aren't right now, fortunately, unlike some of our cousins down south. And I'm amazed how people just willingly sign into the location app to let the government know where they've been, so that when the next case of Wuhan is discovered, the COVID contact tracers, they'll be able to hit them, you know, with, okay, you'll need to go in quarantine. The government can control those people with more restrictions. And again, I've seen this happen firsthand. A family were in a store, only minutes, and I mean minutes. And they had to go into quarantine. So the government just tries to continually control the people with more and more restrictions. And again, the threats that are coming out from the premiers that if we don't have the vaccination, well, we won't be allowed to go into certain places. And, you know, it's already happened in Canada as of the 22nd of September. So if you don't think it's coming to Australia, well, I think we all need to give our heads a shake. So I don't see that as fair and equitable. I find that as pure discrimination. And if we look at the number of cases here in Queensland that we've been locked down for, I really would be interested to see what the statistics are and how they compare with the number of flu cases that we've had. Excuse me, just a moment while I check on my puppy. Hi, mate. Quiet, please. Jakey! Can you see him? Jakey! So, as I was saying, if we look at the number of cases that we've had here in Queensland that we've been locked down for, I'd be interested to see the statistics of how many flu cases and subsequent deaths that we've had in the previous years compared to the cases that we have lost from the Wuhan virus. You know, we went about life with the flu without our daily press conferences by the government officials. We're fighting an invisible weapon here, people. It is. It's like a bioweapon. It's like the anthrax that was found in those envelopes. And we are never, ever going to eradicate it completely. Perhaps the injections will work in the long run. And look, I'll be happy to acknowledge that I was wrong, should the data actually confirm that. But in the meantime, I will prepare to be discriminated against when I can no longer go to the theater, go to sporting events, go to the shopping malls and just stroll through doing my window shopping, which I enjoy doing from time to time. And of course, not the least of which all of these is travel. I just hope that I can continue to do my groceries, but hey, I might have to have those shipped or delivered as well. Look at my fellow neighbors, my family back in Canada. These restrictions start as of the 22nd of September. And rumor has it that, not rumor, it's being discussed on the news that the New South Wales government in particular are looking at introducing these restrictions as well, including our attendance at church. Yes, we will need to be double jabbed in order to attend church. How discriminatory is that? Is that something that Jesus would do? And look, I read another article last night. I've shared it on my social media page, and if you get a chance, I encourage you to look at Dave Pello's comments and his information that he's found about COVID vaccines, the Wuhan vaccines, all three of them. They are immoral and unethical.
I don't know if you heard, but Queensland, well, last week, the emergency statuses, yep, they were extended. They've been extended until April 2022. And word is from one of the members that I actually wrote to, the format with which this whole matter was railroaded through the Parliament, through the House, was just incredible. There was next to no time for them to debate. And yeah, again, it's just more control.
It follows on what I said earlier about the government changes what they say every day. They just change it depending on what they want to say on any given day. I've been praying about this a lot lately, I really have. And I believe that my Abba Daddy God reminded me that He created me with free will to make decisions on my own, based on my own convictions. I choose to believe in Jesus, that He is my Savior, and all the governments, they need to align their policies with God, the Creator. Well, let me just finish with a little story that I want to share with you. When I was a young girl of 10 and 11 years of age, I had very strong convictions about wanting to save the entire world and have them believe in Jesus. My heart was in the right place, but my methods, they were a bit full on. They were a bit off kilter. I was going to try and save them by fearing them into salvation. And that is the method that the government is currently using. They are fear-mongering us into. If we don't do it, there'll be consequences. No, if the facts are true, then people will see the truth and their convictions will change. I pray for the whole world that we would stop trying to be like God, which was the temptation that Adam and Eve fell into in the Garden of Eden. The last bit that I'm going to close with is near and dear to my heart, and that is life. If our governments are so hell-bound, hell-bent, I like to create my own sayings. I don't know which is the correct one politically, but so if they are so intent on saving lives by this injection, then why are they not continuously preserving it? The governments are making up things as they go along. They're not interested in preserving life with the vaccine. That's why there's a hidden agenda here, folks. Let's look at the picture. Let's look at the whole picture. And the legislation that is currently before the Queensland Parliament for the assisted dying bill is just absolutely atrocious, folks. I'm not going to spend the time explaining it to you now, but it is absolutely atrocious. So if the governments are trying to convince us that they are interested in saving lives through this vaccine process against COVID, the Wuhan virus, well then let's compare that up against the assisted dying bill. And I have written to the Queensland committees and shared my point of view, but apparently there's very, very few members that are stepping up against this government for the preservation of life. And I'm not even going to go down the abortion road because that is just despicable. And if we look at the numbers of the aborted fetuses, aborted children, let's call them what they are, children, because yes, I'm one of those people that believe that life starts at conception. Yep. Those deaths, they far outnumber the deaths from the Wuhan virus. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the slippery slope. What are your convictions? I hope you're making them based on your personal conscience and that you feel the freedom to make them based on your own personal convictions, not by what the government is fear-mongering you into. Because a friend of mine actually shared something really interesting the other day. Something really simple, but something that just makes a whole lot of sense to me. So if those that are vaccinated are protected against this Wuhan virus, then why are they also scared of us, the unvaccinated? They shouldn't be. Again, another tactic of fear.